What's up, everyone? It's Albert and Timmy. We are here in Tahoe, beautiful Squaw Valley. We're here for our buddy Michael Wang and Ruby's wedding. And because we're together, we decided to record a podcast. What's up, Timmy?
Not much, man. Happy to be here for the Six Pennies pod.
Yeah, so today's topic, basically a couple of weeks ago, I read, a Players Tribune article with Sharif. Um, and he's talking about how his draft class was the best draft class in the history of the NBA, and so that's why me and Timmy wanted to do a quick podcast regarding like the best, what we regard as the best, as well as the worst draft classes in the history of the NBA. And just to dive into it, my first, I would say the strongest draft class in my opinion is 2003. And that is 100% solely because of LeBron James.
It's not 100% LeBron, right?
I mean, yeah, the class itself was pretty stacked. It had
Darko, yeah.
It had Darko, it had Carmelo, D Wade, Chris Bosh, all Hall of Famers. LeBron James, arguably, a top 5, top 7 player right now. And then you had other players that started off really well. Like I think Kirk Heinrich was 03. Maybe. I know Josh Howard was an all-star at 03.
But it begins and ends with LeBron. You're saying top 5, top 7 all time already, right? At this point.
Yeah. I mean,
Sure.
just looking through, the actual selections made on that day, we have one LeBron, 2 Darko, 3 Melo, 4 Chris Bosh, 5 D Wade. So that's a great top 5. 4 of the 5 are Hall of Famers. And then you also had All-Stars in Chris Kaman, David West, Josh Howard, Mo Williams, Kyle Korver, who is, coincidentally on the Cavs now too. So that's a pretty good, not pretty good, I would say is the best draft class. What do you think, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has an argument. I think when you're looking at draft classes, you either and evaluating how good they are, you're either looking at the top players or like the depth. So the top players for that one, I think, are really strong. I don't think it's the best because I think 84 is better, and I think a lot of people thought that for many years until I guess LeBron reached his peak. But 84, it has the star power at the top, so it's Hakeem and Jordan, obviously, and Barkley. But it also has Stockton. It's got a bunch of other all-stars like Kevin Willis and Otis Thorpe, former Rockets. Maybe that's why I like them. But just that star power of like Jordan, best player of all time, 6 championships, 5 MVPs, and like Hakeem, best two-way center of all time probably. That's already incredible. So that's why that's my top.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan is basically the trump card for any basketball argument. So, I mean, 84 was definitely really good. We also wanted to mention 1996.
Yeah, the Sharif article, right? Because he was talking about how great it was.
Yes, yeah. So Sharif Abdul-Rahim wrote an article for Players Tribune, and his draft class is 96, and he said that that's the best draft class of all time. We did a quick Google search on this topic, and I think the majority would say that it's 1996. Timmy, you want to run through the players that year?
I mean, yeah, 96 is all about Kobe. I mean, he's the headliner. He's going to be the one that's like the trump card there. But it's not just Kobe. This one is probably the deepest. It's got Kobe and Nash, so that's a ton of MVPs right there. Iverson as well, who was the first pick. And then there's like Camby, Raheem, Abdur-Rahim, obviously, Marbury and Ray Allen, Antoine Walker. That one is deep. Ben Wallace, I think, was undrafted in that class. Peja is in the class. It's really, really good. But I don't know. Just the other two that have, LeBron and Jordan, they're better for me.
Yeah, I mean, I really like how deep this 96 class is. I mean, even the busts of this draft got a lot of playing time compared to recent drafts like Anthony Bennett. That's front and center as one of the bigger busts. He hasn't really played, but some of the guys here that didn't make all-star teams or all NBA teams, they were still pretty serviceable players, like Tony Delk and Walter McCarthy, Eric Dampier, players like that. So '96 has an argument. Mine is still '03 for LeBron, and then to recap, Timmy is '84 for
So
Jordan
what's
and
your
Hakeem.
ranking between the three? Are you go 03 and then 84 or 96?
Yeah, I mean for it's very similar to your argument for '84. The star power that was part of '84. You had Hakeem, Charles, and the greatest player of all time. That's three of the top five picks. So I would say I would rank '03, then '84, then '96.
Okay. Yeah, I would just flip flop the 84 and the 03 between us. But like I think there's some pretty cool, pretty good draft classes coming up, or actually like the recent ones where you can't really tell how great they are yet because the players are still, you know, good right now, but their careers aren't over. One of the ones that stood out to me that I forgot about was 2010 and 2011. Both of those, I think at the time they weren't great, but 2010 had John Wall number one, DeMarcus Cousins number two, I think, and then it also had like Paul George and Gordon Hayward. It's a really good underrated draft. And then 2011, I think also people didn't think it was great. That's Kyrie. But it also had like later in the first round, Kawhi was number 15, and Jimmy Butler I think was like the last pick. Klay Thompson was a lot
Oh
later
yeah,
there
that's
too.
a good
So
draft.
that was pretty great.
Yeah, and I mean like so we talk about the greatest drafts. We also started talking about the worst drafts of all time, and I kind of I didn't really think about this much, but I thought it was like 2013 without a doubt, just because of Anthony Bennett. But you did point out the Greek Freak was part of 2013, and I don't think anyone knows what his ceiling is. Like, he's only, what, like 22, 23 years old? And
Yeah, I think he's like 22. But Rudy Gobert is also in that draft, and he's like a late first rounder. So those are kind of sneaky. And then I think CJ McCollum, I think, is in that draft too. So there's like some guys that have jumped up. That's why it's hard to evaluate them this early. 2014 too. I think people were really hyped about like Wiggins and Jabari, and they weren't that great for a couple years, and now they're pretty solid. And then of course the process is part of 2014, so maybe that
that's
one's going to be
right.
really good in the future.
Yeah.
But the one other one that has a similar thing because like in 14, right, you have Embiid, even though he's just now a rookie. In '09, you had Blake Griffin was drafted, but he didn't play the whole year. So he sometimes is thought of in the same class as like the John Wall, DeMarcus draft, but he's actually '09 along with Steph and James Harden. So that draft's pretty good too. It also has your boy DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, '09, just looking at this list, this is a pretty stacked draft class, to be honest. I have one question, though. So Blake Griffin was drafted in 2009.
Yeah.
I know that's... So his draft class is '09, but because he didn't play in 2009 and he played in 2010, he won the Rookie of the Year,
Yeah.
right, in 2010?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing. That's why Embiid can be Rookie of the Year will be Rookie of the Year this year, even though he was drafted 2 years ago. So yeah, going back to your point, 2013. I don't think it's the worst. I think the worst one is the 2000 or '01 draft, the one that has Kenyon Martin and like Mike Miller, and it was terrible. I think those are the only names. Is there anyone else good? Oh, it has Jamal Crawford, but that's about it.
Just a quick shout out for our third member of Six Pennies podcast, Jonathan Mock. He used to love, I don't know, maybe he still loves him, but Stromile Swift went number 2 overall in the worst draft class of all time. Yeah, 2000.
Wow, that's bad. Darius Miles, Marcus Fizer, Chris Mim, Hookem. That's pretty bad.
I forgot about Chris Mim, man. Desmond Mason, slam dunk champion.
I mean, after Mike Miller and Kenyon Martin and Jamal Crawford, it's like the next best player is probably Jamal McGlure, who made All-Star team somehow, but that's pretty bad.
Did you know that Jamal McGlure was from Canada?
No.
I didn't. That's pretty weird.
Oh, Michael
Red was in this
that guy
class.
was awesome. Do you remember when we went to the Team USA 2008 practice in Vegas?
Yeah.
And we were watching... we just like drove to Vegas for a day and like sat like in the second row or something and watched Team USA or all these other games and then Team USA, which was incredible because that was Kobe and LeBron and then Kid,
yeah.
And he just kept feeding Michael Red in the corner, drilling threes. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was like Michael Red and Mike Miller drilling all these threes.
So good.
And that's also when we first were introduced to Grievous Vasquez.
What? I don't remember that.
Yeah, is he Puerto Rican? I think he's Puerto Rican or something like that. And he ended up sitting right in front of us because his country had just played, and he's just there to watch the U.S. basketball team because it's like the best players in the world.
I don't remember that at all, man.
Yeah, and
I remember watching Luis Scola and getting excited because he was going to be on the Rockets.
Oh yeah,
Scola was killing.
well, I remember Vasquez because he was at Duke at the time, and I was like, oh man, that's the guy from Duke, and he hated on USA basketball players outside of Jason Kidd. He loved Jason Kidd. So yeah, that was a pretty cool moment that we got to see them. That was like probably Kobe peak, especially defensively. Remember when he D'd up like Barbosa really hard?
No, I don't remember that at all. I don't even remember.
Yeah, that was good times.
Is that the same year that we watched Russell Westbrook at the UCLA gym before he got started in the league too?
Yeah,
that
so
was awesome.
Yeah, so during my 1 year down in SoCal, Timmy and I hung out all the time, and so one of the things we did was we went to UCLA to play basketball because that's where all the NBA players kind of practice and work out.
We went to watch. We didn't plan on playing at all. We just sat there and watched.
We watched and we saw Russell Westbrook. We saw Danny Granger.
Yeah,
DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre was dunking on everybody. We walked in. And I think Russell Westbrook had like a tip dunk to win a game or something.
No. So
it was later.
No, so it was like, I don't know what the score was, but his team had point, and then the other team turned the ball over. So he had a fast break, wide open dunk, and he did a windmill. And this is like before his UCLA year. I think he had...
No. This was after he was drafted.
Oh, okay.
He just hadn't started yet.
Yes.
Oh, no. I was thinking of a different one. There was like a tip dunk for a win. I was like, that's insane.
And he just goes like, who got next? In front of all these like NBA stars. And this guy hasn't even played a minute in the league.
Sign
it was
of things
awesome.
to come.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we saw the one Chinese guy that was coming in the league. And we really wanted to take a picture, so we went up and we took a picture with him, and then we realized later he's a nobody.
Yeah, he was just so like excited. A tall Chinese guy playing basketball there, and he needed a translator because he couldn't speak English. But yeah, one of the reasons why I wanted to get into NBA drafts, for me personally, is because of the state of the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks currently, are just... I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. Like, a lot of people think they should tank, but they've been like around 500 for the last month or so.
It's because Dirk is timeless.
Yeah,
Dirk's doing awesome on my fantasy team.
Yeah, Dirk is timeless. And honestly, like, do we really trust the Mavericks to, tank and do well in the drafts? Because their history with draft picks outside of trading for Dirk, they didn't even draft Dirk, but they traded for him, is pretty horrid. I mean, just from like 96 to now, first rounders, they had Samaki Walker.
So before that though, they had the kid Mashburn, Jimmy Jack.
Yeah, the three J's.
That's solid.
Yeah.
And then after that is terrible. This is the worst list I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like Samaki, Wang Jiji, Thomas.
But they also never drafted out like in the lottery. That's part of the problem, right? It's all like the best picks are like 16, 17, and it's mostly in the 20s because they've been good for like the whole time Dirk has been there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So who knows? Like their highest pick is 2013, the 13th pick, the only time they had a lottery pick, and that's Kelly Olynyk. But that, like we talked about earlier, that was mostly a weak draft. Besides, man, you could have gotten Greek Freak at number 13.
Yeah. So what I was reading about with the Mavs is that Donnie Nelson wanted to draft Giannis that year, but Mark Cuban, I think, traded down to save money or something like that. There was some contention during that draft class, but. Yeah, the Mavericks not looking good. Oh, man, I would love Giannis on the Mavs. That'd be amazing. But, yeah, that's it. So, to recap, my best draft is 2003. Timmy's is 1984. A lot of people regard as 96 as the best draft class. But those three, you can't really go wrong with any of them. And then don't forget to follow our social media. We have Facebook, Six Pennies Podcast, Twitter, Six Pennies Pod, and our YouTube channel is Six Pennies
How
Podcast.
come our Twitter isn't Six Pennies Podcast, man?
Yeah, so I tried.
It was taken?
Yeah, I tried to get Six Pennies Podcast, but it was too long. The name was too
okay.
long. Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Later.